In this episode of the Courageous Public Health Podcast, Natrina Kennedy reflects on what happens when we stop defining ourselves by our titles and start leading from a deeper understanding of ourselves. From founding a nonprofit at 22, to recognizing when it was time to let it go, to helping students connect their own stories to the work of public health, Natrina shares how understanding her identity has shaped every chapter of her leadership journey. This conversation explores how our lived experiences shape the questions we ask, the work we pursue, and the impact we're ultimately able to make. At its heart, it asks a deceptively simple question. Who are we underneath it all? You're listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, episode 69.
To all the courageous women leading in public health, this podcast is your space to turn up the volume on your courage. This space centers your voice. This space celebrates your passion. This space amplifies your courage. My role? To listen, to amplify, and to stand with you in the fight for equity. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock. I am an epidemiologist, consultant, the founder and CEO of Courageous Public Health, and the host of the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Each week, I have real, unfiltered conversations with women in public health about the challenges you face, the power you hold, and your vision for the future. We talk about the authenticity, vulnerability, and courage that you bring, not just to public health, but to every part of your lives. Because courage is about action, even in fear. It's about taking up space, leading unapologetically, refusing to be erased, and knowing you never have to do it alone. If you're ready to turn up the volume on your courage, if you're ready to take up space, if you're ready to smash the racist, patriarchal, cisnormative, heteronormative, ableist, capitalistic systems, then listen to this new episode.
Hello, and welcome to the Courageous Public Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Christy McClamrock. We spend a lot of time introducing ourselves through what we do. Our job titles, our degrees, our accomplishments, the roles we play in other people's lives. But underneath all of that is something even more important, the person we're becoming. Through Courageous Public Health, I partner with leaders and organizations because the way we lead is shaped long before we make our first decision. It begins with how we understand ourselves, one another, and the conditions that shape what's possible. Today's conversation is with Natrina Kennedy. Natrina is a public health strategist who works at the intersection of community, data, and corporate social responsibility, helping institutions turn complex challenges into clear, human-centered strategy. She's an associate divisional strategy consultant at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois, where she leads strategic planning and evaluation across community-based initiatives. Her work includes supporting a $4 million annual budget for the Blue Door neighborhood centers and leading high-impact efforts such as a 3-year colorectal cancer screening campaign that distributed 3,078 FIT kits across 314 Illinois zip codes, primarily reaching communities facing socioeconomic hardship. Beyond her corporate role, Natrina teaches undergraduate students at Loyola University Chicago, equipping future public health leaders to strategically create community-centered solutions led in partnership with those with lived experiences. She's also a Doctor of Public Health student at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, specializing in women's and reproductive health. Previously, she founded and led a nonprofit known as the Women's Health Initiative, which focused on reducing economic, racial, and social health disparities for women, primarily on the far south side of Chicago, an experience that continues to shape her belief that strong strategy is deeply human and grounded in equitable action. Here's my conversation with Natrina Kennedy. Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here today. I'm with Natrina Kennedy. Hello. Yes, so good to see you. I wanted to start by giving our shout out to India Hairston for for introducing us.
Yes, that's my homegirl. So excited.
Yes.
So excited to be here. Thank you for having me today.
Yes. And I love that you and India are on this journey together to get your PhDs.
Yeah, we're in the Doctor of Public Health program at Hopkins, and it's definitely been a journey. What they say, a marathon.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, it's such an exciting thing. Well, let's start by having you introduce yourself.
Yes, well, hello everybody. I am chiming in today from Chicago, Illinois, my hometown. I always give shout out, totally from the South Side. So I absolutely have to start there. But I am Natrina Kennedy, and I am a daughter, a sister, aunt now, wear many hats. And I'm also a strategist with a local corporate organization in the healthcare space, and I'm also an adjunct professor. So I wear many hats. I've worn many hats, and I'm just so grateful to be here today to be able to share my story with y'all.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm also very excited to hear all about your courage. Let's start there. I always like to remind our listeners about the difference between bravery and courage. That bravery is about taking action without fear, while courage is taking action despite fear. So let's jump right in. Here's some examples from you, some experiences of courage in your life.
Oh, in my life.
Your personal life, your professional life, all of the above.
I think they're really, really aligned, if I could be totally honest. I would say the first thing that comes to mind with me stepping out and really having faith and being courageous is when I started my nonprofit. So I started my nonprofit called the Women's Health Initiative in 2017. So I was fresh out of undergrad, and long story short, I was working in a private practice that's affiliated with a major hospital here, and worked my way up through undergrad, and I was an assistant practice manager there. And the doctors there were amazing, giving amazing obstetrics care, gynecological care. And the women who were patients there, the amount of care, quality care that they got really, really was coming out in existence in their outcomes and them thriving from a health perspective. And what I noticed is I was going back to the South Side of Chicago, and me, my family, my neighbors, my friends, we did not have that same access. And it really became apparent to me that I was living in two worlds. And I really got frustrated with this, very naive, like, well, we deserve that type of care here. Everybody wants to be healthy. And to make a long story short, I started my nonprofit probably within 6 months of me graduating from undergrad. And I used a lot of my academic work from undergrad to really help with my articles of incorporation, my business plans at the time. And that to me was like the biggest moment of like being courageous to me. One, because personally, I really had no idea what I was doing. Just like on an individual level, I think, what are you, like 21, 22, maybe when you're coming out?
That's incredible.
When you're coming out of undergrad. And I did not understand how my identity had really played a role in that at the time. I did not understand that most people, they of course wanted to be healthy, but they were in a state of survival. And I had not lived most of the things that they had lived that got them in that state of survival. And I also had not recognized my privilege that I had to even work in a doctor's office, run a doctor's office, and learn that side of things. And so I really would say like that year, graduating as a first generation college kid and then coming out the gate doing this thing while I still had my 9 to 5. That was one of the biggest moments that I would say, like if I had to have like a defining moment that was professionally and personally, like an act of being like courageous. And that has shaped my entire life since then. My nonprofit has now dissolved. It dissolved this past December due to the lack of DEI funding and a rollback on a lot of that stuff. And even that, I think, was also a moment of me being courageous and being okay with the impact that I have had up until that point, and letting my board and other leaders really help me understand that it really wasn't the end, and I had been able to really impact so many people's lives and show them how they too can be courageous. So that would be my first response to that question.
I love that. Fantastic. And you say first response. It implies that there's maybe another example that you want to share.
I mean, I have moments.
Tell me.
I have so many moments. Just because, and I will say, since we are on air, that I identify as a Christian, so I show up in that space unintentionally. So I could talk about just when you say despite fear, because I think a lot of people, they believe that becoming an entrepreneur, there is no fear. And that is like one of the biggest, I would say, misconceptions. But also getting up to that point, like I was in college, even before I was in public health, with no money and still trying to, move despite fear, trying to figure out how to pay for school. And even when I think about like how I got into the world of working and running an OB/GYN practice, it was really just an act of being courageous. Like, okay, well, despite not having money, despite not really knowing like how I'm going to get through this process, is like, this is the end goal. So that takes courage. And even now at Hopkins, like I feel comfortable saying the same thing, right? Like I'm older and I've had way more experiences, but I am an example of all the public health problems that I'm hoping to solve. I'm the product of a single Black mother from the South Side of Chicago, who did not have a official college degree or anything like that. My mom is almost 50 and she's working on her bachelor's degree. And so just living through her life as a living, breathing example of what she created, and seeing how many other mothers have gone through that, and then working on maternal and reproductive health work. Like, I'm a living example of that. So I have many, I could talk your ear off all day about from finances to even just going to Hopkins. Like, I did not apply to any other program. People think I'm crazy. I promise you, I am not telling any fibs. I would never have went back to school ever in my life. I said, I got my MPH. I am fine. I am making money. I'm doing great work. I have my own business. And one day I really just could not sleep. And it was on my mind. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. And I kid you not, I got up, opened up my laptop, and Hopkins was having a like orientation type of event that day for their DRPH program. And I was like, okay, I'm going to apply so I can go back to sleep. And and I applied. And now here we are we just started, I think it's in June, our 4th year, me and India and a few of our other classmates on the women's and reproductive health track, but we're 4 years in now. But even that, completing application and knowing that like they only bring in like 100 students a year, that is an act of being courageous. Like no matter what you're thinking about or what circumstances might keep you from, in your mind, keep you from, I guess, like thriving in that space or being successful, like stepping out and just being okay with the worst possible answer being no.
Yeah. So I love that you have so many examples of being courageous. I have a question. Mm-hmm. Do you think that in those moments, did you know that you were being courageous, or was that something that you realized later?
If I'm being honest,
I
don't think I ever recognized it until this moment.
Oh my gosh,
Sometimes it's the way in which people ask you questions or people bring things to your awareness. I myself would never had said, "Oh, I'm being courageous." I would never have used that adjective or verb. To think about myself in that way. And it reminds me of a conversation I had last year with somebody identified me as a risk taker. And I was like, I'm not a risk taker.
And you're such a risk taker.
And they were like, what? And I'm like, am I a risk taker? I guess it's a calculated risk, but I never had thought of myself in that way. And I feel comfortable saying I think most people don't think that what they're doing is something. I think most of us, especially in this space, especially people in public health who truly care about the well-being and livelihood of other people, we're just doing the do. We're just doing the thing that we truly enjoy. And we too are in a state of survival most times. Yeah. So I would never have defined any of those moments as being courageous.
But they were.
And I could probably give you 100 examples.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, well,
just because you say that, I think we need to stay here for another minute. So give me 3 more examples.
Three more examples?
3 more examples, whatever comes to your mind.
So another one that comes to mind is I moved away from working in the nonprofit space, working in the corporate space. And I think that would be another example. One, because I never wanted to be there. And so stepping outside my comfort zone and stepping outside, even like my own value systems and being open to learning in a new way about how I can shape the field. I love the world of nonprofit, even before I had my own. And I love the mission-driven work, the people-driven work. And I didn't see corporate as that thing. And now I've been in corporate 4.5, going on 5 years as a strategist. And I realized that like they truly have the means to do the good work. They're often behind the curve. And I'm sure you've heard a lot of people say that, but they have the means, they have the capacity, and a lot of times corporate social responsibility to do that. So to be able to be a part of a major player in the ecosystem, like that took a lot of like stepping outside myself, which I think was courageous. But he told me to do 3. The second one that I would say is learning what the heck a strategist is and stepping into that identity. And keep in mind, like the whole time I had my nonprofit, I also had 9 to 5. And so I often wore many, many hats, and professionally and personally, I've always had several jobs, and everything I did required strategy work in some capacity or another, building programs strategically, funding strategically, strategic plans, content, personally and like for the organization itself. So when I became a strategist, it solidified that identity for me. And it took some courage to really sit in that, especially in a corporate space, because I had always had these several identities, and I felt like a lot of them gave me credence, but I didn't really want to fully just be in one. And so now, and I will honestly say that's something that I still feel like is requiring a lot of courage, because without my nonprofit, I truly am in this very honest space of like being grateful for all the work I've done, because I've done all the things I wanted to do, but also just be in one thing. And it's something that I'm excited about being in more, but I definitely think it takes some courage to be okay with that and saying like, my impact was my impact. And there's a space where I needed to also work on myself. Despite the burnout, despite all the letters behind your names and all the jobs and roles and the people you've saved. So I think that takes some courage, which brings me to my third point. I've been really spending a lot of time working on my own health. had a lot of different health challenges. I would say over the last 10 years, but definitely in the more recent, like 2 years. And it's taken a lot of courage to just pause. And I often don't talk about that a lot, so it's a very transparent moment. But being able to slow down and even, as you say, like reflect on those moments and think about, okay, well, I've never really thought about what have I done, always where am I going? And and so I think that also takes courage. And we think of these big grandiose things, but we don't think about those small moments, those small wins. Like the other day I had a moment to color. And I kept thinking, like, is this what other people do after work? Like they just sit down and they watch a show, open up their doors, light a candle, or go for a walk. I can't tell you how many days I did not have an opportunity to just be, because after work, I have another job, I have an organization to run, and I'm pulling at least 14, 16-hour days, at least 5 to 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So those would be my three. Those would be my three.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that I offered you an opportunity to give 3 more examples, because those are all really fantastic examples. And thank you for your willingness to, talk about your health, the health piece, because I totally can see that that's a vulnerable act. And of course, there's a courageous moment right there. Look, we just created a courageous moment. 4th example. Oh, so good. So good. Someone I was talking to recently told me that doing this podcast is such a great thing for me, because it's like I'm getting this IV drip of courage and courageous public health. And I was like, yes, it is this constant drip of having, the privilege and the pleasure of hearing about other people's courageous actions, and especially to watch as people realize, oh yeah, that is courage. It's quite an extraordinary thing to get to do. So thank you very much for that. So before we hit record, we were talking about a little bit about authenticity and the fact that I was remiss in sending you the questions ahead of time, and that you said, actually, I feel like I can be more authentic when it's not like a prepared script, or, you get to just talk. And so I love that. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about this piece about authenticity. So, because I feel like that's such a huge part of courage as well, right? Is being your full authentic self. So I want to ask you about experiences that you've had when you've been in spaces that maybe haven't welcomed your full authentic self, and what kind of challenges have you faced in bringing your authentic self to those kinds of spaces?
That's an excellent question. The first thing that comes to mind would actually be corporate.
Okay, great. Yep.
Naturally, I think that's an easy one to speak about. Corporate is great, but it is often buttoned up. And I think it doesn't sometimes allow for people to truly bring a layered identity. And I feel like I experienced it. This is my personal story. I imagine we talk to some of my peers, they might have similar or a little bit more diverse experiences. But I often feel like, especially as a young Black woman, I just made 31. Sorry, after 25.
Congratulations.
It starts to how old? At least for me. But I just made 31, and I've been favored to have a lot of great opportunities professionally, nationally, locally. And in a lot of different sectors of public health specifically. And so I've gotten to this place rather quickly compared to a lot of my counterparts. And so when you start talking about authenticity, like, I think people also look for like this, it's like this subtle way of trying to find the how. And for me, it has been just me being myself. Like being curious, being open to learning, being able to connect with people, learn their testimonies and their stories, being able to critically think about how to bring innovation and strategy around that thing. But a lot of it is because of my real perspective. Like I said, like I'm a Black woman. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, the far south side of Chicago. And so there's a lot of layers there. When we talk about this investment, when we talk about my Blackness, culture, my version of community is very different. My loyalty to identity stems from just my upbringing and the way in which I see the world. So now when you put this in a corporate setting, I often have to pick one version a day. And I have to be very strategic about the way in which I show up in that space, and how bold I choose to be and when I choose to use that boldness. And I think there's a beauty in doing so that a lot of people might often refer to it as code switching, which it is. It is absolutely code switching, which also impacts your health, doing it every day.
Yes.
Doing it every day. But I think there is a beauty in learning how to use different parts of your life that I think I didn't understand. I knew I was doing it before in other roles, especially in nonprofit. But nonprofit, in my experience, has been welcoming. Everybody jump in. Everybody, like, you don't have money. You don't have time. It's like all hands on deck. You're expert in this. You do this. But in corporate, everything is typically siloed. You have a team for this. You have capacity for this. And so you often have to pick a box. And when you don't fit into that box, it's hard for people to wrap their minds around you as an individual. And I'll be honest, like, I've legit had people tell me that, like, they don't understand how I could be great at so many things in the corporate setting. They don't understand how I got here so young. And then when we start talking about intersectionality, I'm like a triple threat. I'm Black, I'm young, I'm female, right?
I love it.
And so, again, public health and all this means, right? And so I've learned, and I'm still learning how to do that. As you can probably tell, I'm very vocal. I've learned, like, to just shut up sometimes, right? Like, no, there's a moment in which I can step out. And I'm also learning that even in my silence, I can be authentic.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's a newer thing. I would say just in recent months, I'm learning that. I'll be very honest. But corporate is, like, I feel like the culmination of me truly learning that. Another space that I've often seen there be like an emptiness to authenticity would be being an entrepreneur. It's another space where I didn't have, like, everything I did for my nonprofit came out of my own budget, my own money for so long. And I had volunteers. I had some local people who just loved me and loved the mission. But trying to find sustainable funding was a real thing. And funders often want you to be, like, all in. But because of my circumstances, I never really had the pleasure of just doing that. So I've always had more than one head at a time. And a lot of people didn't understand, like, the root to that. And so that also, I felt like I really struggled with that for a while. A lot of my board members and close mentors and my mom and my grandma spent a lot of time really trying to help me navigate that space, because my authentic self says, no, like, everybody deserves this funding. Everybody deserves to be heard. How do you pick and choose, and who gets a say? When do they get a say? And how do I find, someone to do this job but not do that job? And I really struggle with that, but those would be like the two big examples, especially in this public health space. What I've done to navigate that, if it's helpful, I've always found a means to kind of get around it. And teaching, because I'm now an adjunct, teaching has been an opportunity to do that. So I now teach my students how to really start understanding who they are at their core and finding like their authentic selves to really solve public health problems. So I've built a 16-week class with my alma mater, shout them out, Loyola University of Chicago. Their public health program, the Parkinson School of Public Health and Health Sciences. But then they gave me the space to do that, to build out a 16-week course that we go through, like, what is your identity? Who are you as a leader? What are your leadership skills? And, we learn about intersectionality and identity. We bring in guest speakers who are experts in that space. And then they have to pick a public health problem that is explicitly tied to a piece of their origin story. And they spend several weeks picking out data around that problem and solutionizing around that problem. And then they pitch a solution to pretty much a plethora of like random people, community leaders, their family, academic leaders, program faculty, other entrepreneurs in the space. And they really work around that for 16 weeks. But that was because I did that because I was so frustrated with not being able for people to understand that it is my identity and who I am that's got me to this space. And so everybody kept asking for the secret sauce and how did I do this? And it was really just me. And so it has been helpful for me to help, especially young people, of all races and creed, be able to figure that out early on, because I think most of us in the public health space do that in some way, shape, or form, because we never really have a space that accepts us fully in all those layers.
I am blown away by the fact that you turned this into a course. What an incredible way to make explicit what is so often implicit, to make to bring that out into the open so that people can really look at it. Because I agree that so many of us in public health do what we do because of some experience or some part of our identity. I certainly fit into that category as well. But to be able to really look at that, that's very powerful. That's very powerful. So thank you for turning that into a course, because we need more of that. More of that, please.
Thank you. And it's different, right? Because at least like for me in my public health training, I didn't learn that. I found ways to bake it in, right? Like we all do, right? We do projects based off things that we like. But like that identity piece, and it looks different. Like if you look at any of my students' work, like some of them are very specific, like, oh, I am Polish and I want to help people get access to more like, accurate, like health literacy in their language, right? That's very specific. But I've also had students who have wrestled with like things like anorexia or just like schizophrenia, depression, different things. And they've created whole innovations because they had this experience that truly changed how they viewed themselves. And a long time ago, my mom used to have this thing where she would tell me to check my heart posture. And it's really a biblical thing. Again, I'm a Christian, so I don't mean to offend anyone. So that's why she would say it to me. And it's another way of saying in the way that she would say it to me. I'm not going to get all like philosophical here, but the way she would say it to me is like, it's an opportunity to turn a mirror on yourself. Like, what's in your heart? Like, you can be as smart as you want to be, right? But your heart posture may not always align what's going on in the world or what you learn. And so there has to be a mirror of the two. And so the class is really centered around that. And it can be difficult because we're not trained to think in that way. Like a lot of us are, well, I'm not epi, biostats. I am not that type of public health professional.
No.
But a lot of us are centered around research and facts. And when you step into that heart posture, they may not always align.
Yep. Heart posture. I love that. I'm going to start using that phrase if I can borrow it. Because,
yes.
I think of it as being like values aligned and vision aligned, but the heart posture is like, put the mirror up to your heart. It's like, are you being true to what is there? I mean, that is authenticity, right? I mean, that's yeah. Fantastic.
I'm sorry.
That's really fantastic. Sorry. What? Are you sorry?
Because I know like that could turn into a whole different conversation and
no, it's so good. And I think it's so needed, right? I mean, I think there's more talk these days about how important lived experience is. But what you're doing is you're actually making the connection very explicit, again, between someone's lived experience and then the public health work that they do. Like, let's lean into that. Let's actually take advantage of that understanding in our own selves because, it's there for so many of us, but we just don't think about it. It's unconscious. I would say it's unconscious at some level. So bringing that into our consciousness that's great. That's great. So, okay. So we're already sort of moving into, the next thing I want to talk about, which is about your vision, right? And to me, vision is definitely related to that heart posture. Like, what do you see as the future for public health, for the communities that you work with, for your students, whichever path you want to go down. But also I want to make sure that we also talk about your personal vision for your future. But yeah, talk to me about vision.
If you would have talked to me last year, I would have said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to scale my nonprofit. And that's what I'm going to do when I'm done with school. Yep. I've really been wrestling with this all year. I think I alluded to it earlier. Like, I've done all the things I wanted to do so far, right? Like, I wanted to help my community, people who look like me. I did that. I wanted to really start breaking down some of the silos across these different sectors of criminal justice, education, healthcare, data. I've done that. I've stepped into policy and now corporate. And I've really kind of been a part of the whole entire ecosystem just about in some way, shape, or form. And I think the biggest thing is like, now what? I have no clue, if I'm being very honest. I wish I could say like, I'm going to be a C-suite executive, or I'm going to, be a humanitarian speak. I don't know. I really can't say. But I do personally envision a life with huge impact and huge flexibility. My life is changing. Like I said, I'm now in my 30s. I do envision, being married and having a family and also recreating what community looks like for me, and really embedding my legacy in a different way, which does require me to sit down just a bit. Just a little. Yeah, just a little.
Just a little bit.
I'm not a believer in that. I can't do all of it. I'm not one of those people, but just a little bit. But it does require me to reflect some more. So I envision a life of impact, flexibility, and good health for myself. And I realize now, people would say it to me, but it didn't really hit, that you really can't help people unless you help yourself. And for the first time in my life, I've been able to see how, one, all my hats connect. and how I truly show up. And I think when I think about my personal vision, it's impact, it's flexibility, and it does include scale. I just can't give you a title, a role, or a new hat, but it's the vision. And I'm really excited. I haven't publicly talked about this yet, but I'm really excited. I went through like this bittersweet moment with my nonprofit dissolving. Like, oh my God, like my world is coming to an end. I've lost a lot of like my credibility and like that reverence. I'm losing a really massive title. And I'm like, what I'm going to do? And people are going to see like I failed, but I didn't. And it really gave me new perspective, new reach, and a lot of things to step into. And so, which will lead me to my second part of that response is I truly envision a community where, especially, I'm sorry, I have to say this, my community really understands the value of culture, the value that they hold. Even down to one of the things I've been stepping into is like storytelling research. Like the things that we've been doing as a people is the thing that's going to get us by, even amidst the administration and the changes and just all the things happening around us. Like we've always had people. And I think that is a true core of like, public health is populations, right? And so I envision a society where we are truly free of like those strongholds, and we value community, we value stories, we value differences. And I think that would change the way in which we invest in communities, the way that we share data, the way that we think about innovations and interventions. We still think of them in these very unique and siloed ways. So that's my little my little challenge is really thinking about, and I don't think that we're going to solve that now, to be honest. I think it really takes change and perspective. Even when I think about like social media, like I said earlier, I love social media. I see it as an asset. I see it as a value. And so when we think about like influencers and things like that, I'm trying to convince my organization to invest in influencers. Like when I think about, because I work for a payer. And so when I think about like how much we have and how little people understand how to navigate the systems. And so they don't even see the reach that we have because they don't understand it. So we could use influencers. We could have new, like AI is big right now. I'm actually working on something around that too, where like we have things that we've never had before that we couldn't predict, we couldn't think about. And all these people died at the hands of things that we could have prevented. So that's my soapbox, is how do we truly create a workforce and a culture around like those things, community, people, lived experience, because they're all tied. You can't talk about disparities without talking about the lived experiences. You can't talk about interventions without talking about the people most impacted. So I think there's still, especially in America, I see it differently in other countries where we have it all figured out and we don't. Especially not without each other.
We definitely do not have it all figured out. So maybe part of the vision gets to be, we get to figure more of it out.
Yes. And I'm like, I wish I could say it all nice and eloquent, like, oh, I'm going to do this, or I think we should do this. But I really think it's so much deeper than that. Like,
it is.
Even like, I had to explain to someone yesterday, I'm in Chicago, so we have the Canada fires, and I almost passed out yesterday. And so I'm really kind of scared to go outside today. And I'm like, this is public health. My, thinking about like how many people are experimenting like poor environmental health right now. But we don't think of it in that way. And a lot of people have been experiencing this their whole lives.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Natrina, you are welcome to get on your soapbox with me anytime because it's a great soapbox and it's such important stuff. And I have total confidence that you are going to change the world. You are going to continue to change the world.
Thank you.
Yeah. And the energy you bring and the perspective you bring, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. I'm so glad that we got to have this conversation. So I want to make sure that our listeners know how to connect with you. And so since you said you really appreciate the power of social media, let's make sure that people know where to find you on social media.
Yes. Currently, I am on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. You can search me by my name.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yes. So on Instagram and TikTok, it is Natrina Nicole. Nicole spelled Nekole. And then, of course, on LinkedIn, it is my entire name.
Great.
And feel free to just chat me, chime in, send me a DM. I love storytelling. I love learning about perspectives. You will be scared to see how many people just randomly like walk up to me. Hey, I saw you, and you said, I'm like, I was where when I said that? I don't even remember. Or they'll follow me on Instagram. Like, I saw your story. And you'll realize that you're more inspiring than you think. So I love the conversation. So feel free for those who are listening in to continue to have these conversations on your own or chime in with us as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Natrina. And I'm really excited that we're connected now.
Yes, thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Okay. We spend a lot of time building careers, collecting experiences, taking on new goals, and accomplishing the goals we've set for ourselves. Natrina Kennedy reminds us that understanding who we are isn't the end of the work. It's where the work begins. That's the work of Courageous Public Health. We help leaders and organizations better understand themselves, one another, and the conditions that shape what's possible. If this conversation resonated with you, connect with Courageous Public Health. The links are in the show notes. Until our next episode, stay courageous.
Thank you for listening to the Courageous Public Health podcast. Visit courageouspublichealth.com to find the show notes for each episode and learn how to connect with us.